If you can't talk about sex without being awkward or feeling weird, then you are always going to struggle with women. Look, here's what it comes down to. Men have actually made it so that women can't be comfortable bringing up sex or being sexual in their presence. And the reason for that is most men have no idea how to attract or interact with women. So what happens is the minute a woman starts showing off any kind of sexuality, the guy's like, oh yeah, baby, get those tits out. Yeah, that's right. You know you want this dick. They become this weird, overly sexual animal, and it actually encourages most women to not do that and to not show any form of sexuality, at least not in an environment where they don't feel safe. They'll show sexuality to them with a group of friends or with their boyfriend or maybe in front of a camera, but they're not just gonna do it randomly. And that's because they have a fear of the aggressive predatory behavior by most men. However, if you want to have any kind of sexual relationship with a woman, you've got to make them feel comfortable being able to have sex with you. You've got to make them feel comfortable talking to you about sex. You have to do that, and that comes from you. Now, the key to doing this is to understand that everything is an escalation. You start in a small way, and if you get compliance and you get their permission, then you can go into the next way and you can slowly build it up over time. Rather than going in there and being overly aggressive, sexual, and weird, which runs the risk of freaking people out, we can have a very normal conversation and slowly introduce the subject of sex. This is going to make her feel comfortable talking to you about sex, move the conversation where you want it to be, while at the same time making sure at every step of the way she's giving you consent. The way we're going to do this is remembering the following phrase: people, relationships, sex. The very first thing you want to talk about is people. Now, if you look at any women's magazine, you'll see it's packed with discussions about people and relationships. You can think about Keeping Up with the Kardashians and reality TV, even the home networks, where they do the home fixer-upper kind of shows. All of those things have one thing in common. It's a focus on people and stories. Women and men love stories of people. So what I'll do is when I'm talking to somebody, if I want to talk about sex, I start by talking about people. And usually I'll people watch. I'll talk about the people around us. If I'm in a coffee shop, I'll be like, hey, look at those two. How do you think they know each other? And so all I'm doing is talking about another couple of people in the room and asking her opinion. And she's gonna guess whether they're dating or not dating. And before you know it, we've already shifted the conversation from people to relationships. Now we can talk about how they know each other, whether they're dating, how long they've been dating, are they cheating on each other? We can talk about other people in the room, see who else is dating. And we've already shifted from people to dating. And now I can talk about, do you think it's possible to spot how happy somebody is in their relationship just by looking at them? What a great conversation that we can have anywhere, from a movie theater to a restaurant to to a coffee shop to a park. We can talk about relationships. Once we have that, it is a piece of cake if the conversation is going well to just be like, all right, but what's their sex life like? And now we can talk about whether they're good in bed, who's more dominant, what their sex life's like, whether they spank each other, whether they wife swap, and we can have an entire conversation about sex. I have now brought up sex in a comfortable, easy way without being weird, in a way that makes her feel comfortable talking about it and engaging it as well. We're not talking about having sex together, we're just talking about the subject of sex. But if you notice, I've already thrown in BDSM, kinky, handcuffs, and all sorts of weird stuff, but it's made it fun and interesting, and it makes it a better conversation. A good example of this is I was on a first date with a woman in a restaurant in London, and we see this couple, and they've both got their wedding rings on, and they're laughing and joking, giggling and making out with each other. And we were talking about the people in the bar, the people in the restaurant, and I said to the girl, they're cheating. And she looked at me and says, what? And I was like, that couple over there, I was like, they're cheating 100%. And she goes, no, they've both got wedding rings. I was like, oh, they both have wedding rings, but they're not married to each other. They're married to someone else. And she's like, how do you know? And I was like, what kind of people that are married come to a public restaurant, sit next to each other and start making out? If you're married and you live in the same marital home, you make out at home in bed and you have no scarcity about making out. You know you can make out as long as you want in your own bed. The only time you passionately make out with each other after you're married is if you cannot do that, because you are essentially living with different people in different homes. The woman was blown away by it and she refused to believe it. She's like, there's no way you can be sure. I was like, look, we'll be able to tell if they leave the restaurant at different times. And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, think about it. If they're actually cheating, they're not gonna walk out the door at the same time in case they get seen together. They'll leave at separate times. So we then start talking about what their sex life's like, and we're like imagining it, they're both in these terrible relationships at home. Anyway, sure enough, fast forward about 45 minutes, the woman leaves and the guy sits there for the next 15 minutes texting her on his phone. And she's like, I can't believe you called it. And it's all because I'm good at analyzing relationships and watching people, relationships, sex. So if you want to have a conversation shifted to sex, to be able to shift that conversation sexual, just remember that pattern and it will be easy as pie.
Do you want to discover the 3 things that women are naturally drawn to and change the way you look at attraction? It comes down to a very simple formula: abundance, confidence, and escalation. In my free ACE formula, I share with you how you can use these 3 sections to become the kind of person that women want to pursue and are naturally attracted to. To get access to my ACE formula, all you have to do is click the link in the description of this video and enter your regular details. So stop struggling to get dates and start living the life that you have always wanted.